So if you are looking for ways to take your dairy farm to the next level, to really turn that farm into a business and professionalize that, if you're looking for ways to increase employee engagement and loyalty, to connect with your community, or maybe if you have a direct to consumer outlet that you're looking to really create a way to connect with that audience, you're in the right place, because those are all the things we're going to be talking about today. And the one powerful way to do that is through creating and owning your brand. And what we're going to do today is walk through 5 steps to create a brand that means something to your business and communicates the values that you want to communicate out to your audience and your customers, which may be potential employees, the people that are already on your farming team, and those in the community and the people that you do business with and sell your products and services to. So I'm Peggy Coffeen with the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. Today I am on site here at Quali-T in Luxembourg, Wisconsin, and I have asked Susan Heim to join me for this conversation. Sue, welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast.
Thank you, Peggy. It is truly an honor to be here. It is so important to me and to our staff here at Quali-T.
And Sue, you have a long-standing commitment to the dairy farming community. For one, because you grew up in it.
I did.
Okay, give us a little snapshot. What did that look like for you?
I grew up on a farm with my 5 brothers. So I think I actually started being a small businesswoman at that point, because I would put together like a chart and making sure it was fair because of the chores that we had. We picked stones, we baled hay, we went to 4-H meetings. It is true to my heart. It warms my heart that you have asked me to be part of the podcast. Quali-T has been in business since 1990. It's not only about the top quality products, although we deliver a lot of that. Our name is Quali-T. It is really about comprehensive brand solutions that we bring to empower our businesses, organizations, whether they're nonprofit or schools, and using those branding products, utilizing their logo to make sure they are leaving a lasting impression on everyone. It's so neat how the industry itself, just like the farms, have advanced with technology, but our industry also has advanced. When I started 34 years ago, it was all men's polo shirts and there was nothing available. So we've advanced so far for the industry, so many new brands, but the HighVisz is definitely an area that is concentrated on, especially for the farms.
And you're speaking to women in the dairy industry that has ever had to order a company polo in the last 20 years
goodness.
Had the most unflattering collection of them in their closet. I have been one. Thank goodness for the evolution of that part of the business. And we've connected because there are actually several farms in the local area here that you have worked with that I've had as guests here on the podcast. And you've really walked with them over the years as they have professionalized their farming businesses, as they have grown and diversified and helped to tell their story along the way. If you're able to watch this video with us right now, you can see behind us some examples from one of those farms that you've done a lot of business with here and helped to do those things. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that farm for just a moment?
I would love to talk about the Ebert story. Randy and Renee came in to our showroom many years ago. They came in with their 3 children, Whitney, Brittany, and Jordan. Renee and Randy brought in a photo of their farm and said, is there any way we can get this on our shirts? And I said, absolutely. So what we did is we took their photo, and it was with a sunset. I have the actual logo that we did for them. So here is what we did for them. We took their logo. It was so fun. We added the gradient of a sunset, and this is where they started. They are now a farm to fork. As you can see, their mother company is Ebert Grows. They have Ebert Enterprises with their Octagon Red Barn. They also have acquired Salmon Meats and the Homestead Restaurant. What we do for them, and Renee, is so much fun because you will see that Renee takes a photo of each of the months for the calendar. So she takes those personal photos and we use some special care with it. We actually let her approve it. She takes pictures of the harvest, the cows, the family, the staff, and we put that into a calendar for her. She also puts together very much appreciated gifts for their employees because they are truly value to them. They care so much for their employees. Sometimes we're putting a logo on a mug that has all the designs on it. The HighVisz was huge and important to Randy. The HighVisz apparel, also jackets that he did for them. Then they moved into like Carhartt jackets, a Carhartt vest that I have today on display as well.
I remember taking a picture of their family by that farm sign in my magazine editor days. That was such a staple part of their brand identity and how they were establishing themselves at that time. But in the example of Eberts, they've evolved their business, as you alluded to. And that meant having several brands that they now work with. And I think that's reflective of a lot of dairy farms and a lot of dairy businesses. There's the dairy side, but maybe they have a cropping side, and maybe there's a custom work side,
Right.
and maybe there's a direct to consumer side as well. And when you put all those pieces together, there's different audiences that you're appealing to. But Sue, I'm going to divert back to what is brand and why does it matter?
It matters because it is the perspective of what people see when they see you, when they see your business. What value are you bringing to your community? It's not only your logo is part of it, but it really is the impression that you're leaving with the final consumer, if that's who your audience is. Knowing who your audience is huge too. So it'd be like what your promise was to the community, what your promise is to the employees. It's what your perspective is in the community.
Would you say it's in some ways an at a glance way of communicating that?
It's the impression, and our industry works with impressions. There's actually a study out there through ASI. We are affiliated with ASI PPAI. They had an impression study from 2023. What an impression means is each time a person sees your logo, they see that product in its lifetime, because a t-shirt might be like 4 years of a lifetime, but how many times do they see that, and how many impressions are you giving that person that's looking at it? So an example would be with like a hat. There would be like 3,300 impressions in the lifetime of a hat. Hats are considered like your beanies, your baseball caps, whatever it might be. And for the t-shirt, it would be 5,500 impressions for that person in its lifetime. And your ever popular Yetis or Stanleys that we are customizing daily here, they will leave 3,100 impressions. And when you really look at even the value of promotional products, even that hat, let's say that hat costs you $16. It actually costs you a half a cent for each time a person sees your logo. And with a t-shirt, it's actually 1/5 of a penny.
Sue, I've asked you to share with us 5 steps for building a brand and how a dairy farm can use these steps to really look at how they can professionalize their business. So walk us through, what is step number 1?
Step number 1, you would think it would be the logo, but you really need to take a step back for step number 1 and really find out what your core values are. What are people seeing when they see your logo or your company? What is it going to take to portray to the public, to the consumers, your customers, the business itself overall, for your employees and your community? What is it going to take for them to fall in love with you and choose you first? So it could be like a potential customer or a potential employee. How much is it going to take for them to fall in love with you and then become your next loyal employee?
So when you talk about determining these core values, you reference it as how you want to be perceived, and also an emotional connection of how you want people to feel when they see that brand. As you mentioned, a lot of times people think that the first step is a logo, right? Like they think that's what I need is a logo, but you bring them back to say, okay, a logo is actually not the first step. A logo is developed after we identify the things that are important to you and how you want to be perceived. How do you take those things and create something unique with them? Is that where the logo comes in next?
Yes, we listen to their story. It's their unique story. And that truly is what your brand is. So we ask them like what they want everyone to, when they see their logo, what do you want to be valued as? Being a quality place to work, whatever it might be. So even with the logo itself, you do want to be looking at a lot of our farmers that are coming to us recently. Traditionally, they would have the arch with the farm name and the city and state. We all have seen it with the Holstein cow, and nothing against anyone that is still utilizing that. That's why we're talking together today. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's to be able to take a step back and find those core values, find out what is most important to them. Maybe it might be the heritage of the farm, the legacy of it. Maybe it's the happy cows, whatever it might be. Maybe they're crop farmers now, like you mentioned. How can we make that perception for anyone that's looking at it, making that impression on the individual with their values coming through the logo?
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
So you spend a lot of time talking with people about what their core values are. Sometimes they've done that work and come to you with those words. I know in our dairy industry, there are a few people out there that do help Farms with some of their ground level work for creating core values and mission statements. So if they've done some of that work, they can bring it to someone that can put that into a compelling image. And that compelling image is the logo, right?
That's the logo.
There are a few challenges that anyone who's ever ordered apparel or looked for someone to create a logo has probably run into. I've run into some of these challenges myself. Maybe you've experienced this. You're like, okay, I need the logo. So you have someone create this logo. Then what happens is maybe you've done what I've done. You've taken it somewhere and you're like, hey, I want to get this embroidered, but that's not the right type of file to get it embroidered or printed. Or you're trying to order a bulk quantity of t-shirts for your team, but then you run into challenges with the type of file you need and the colors for the logos, or even colors of shirts in general. If you've ever ordered anything black, you will realize that black is not one color. Black is like 18 different colors. And that's where another spot where some of that inconsistency can come up. And so when we look at these problems and challenges for a farm that's like, okay, we want to take this step, these are the things that I know I've ran into, and I think other people run into them too. And so what I'm hearing from you are just some ways that we can circumnavigate the challenges and make it a little bit easier and cohesive versus running into the don't have the right type of file, don't have consistency in the product that we end up ordering because we're ordering online and don't really know what it's going to look like. And then but possibly getting stuck with something that a big quantity is something you don't like.
Right.
And if you don't like it, that's not a cherished gift to give out to people you care about either.
We have clients that come to us and it actually is like a branding package. What's in this branding package is the vectorized art, which is what you need. It's a logo that's a .ai or .eps at the end of it for the suffix. But you can take that logo, you can expand it all the way to a billboard, and it's going to keep the quality, resolution, everything that you need. Inside that package is also going to be the fonts, making sure that typesetting is honored throughout the whole way. It could be a one color logo. It can be a multicolored logo. Everything is digital now, but you do have to reference those Pantone numbers. And that's what our industry works with. You can work with RGB or CMYK colors, but we work with Pantone colors. We'll have a PMS number that goes along with it. And if I could just tell a quick story, we had a construction company that came in the other day, and they had gone to other companies like ours in the industry for many years. Terry and Brent came in to me and they said, we're ready for a change. And they qualified us, which is great. We love that when people qualify us because we qualify our customers too. So it was going to be a good fit. And they dropped off all of their apparel. They had baseball caps, beanies, they had t-shirts, they had safety apparel like safety vests, which is so important in the industries. They brought along a jacket, so polos. I had them all on my desk and I looked at it all and nothing was cohesive. They had 2 different fonts. They had 4 different colors of blue. Exactly what we don't want to see in our industry because you want to be supporting your brand 100%. So they had 4 different colors of blues. They had 2 different colors of grays. So I took a pause. I stopped, called up Terry, and I said, Terry, normally this takes 2 to 3 weeks to get this all taken care of and all of your proofs approved, and we would be moving forward. But I want you to pause and actually rewind a little bit. Let's go back to that first original vector art. It's on their website. They have it on their vehicles. We have inconsistencies here. And she sent us the files. I even apologized to her because we were waiting. And she's like, no, please do not apologize, Sue, because you are the first person that stopped and is taking care of us. Other places were just like doing that reorder and doing a new order and never really even caring about the actual Pantone colors. So we have that all completed. They're in the process of taking care of their October order, giving their 100 employees like 5 t-shirts, whatever hoodie, and what they're doing. And Brent came to me and said, Sue, I can't appreciate you enough because from now on, we are going to work with that branding package and make sure that we are staying to the rules that we have put in place. We also offered them a good, better, and best here. So what they were doing, like Gildan safety apparel. And what we did is we offered them like a long sleeve hooded t-shirt that actually had separated the reflective strips. So it's a little bit more comfortable for the employees. They were so appreciative of that. And in the end, it actually ends up saving you more money because the employees, it's lasting longer. So they were very happy. That's my story about making sure your brand is consistent. It is so important.
We've taught in that step number 1, creating a logo that's unique to you is step number 2. But step number 3 is really supporting the brand every day in every way. So you talk about supporting the brand every day, every way. And there's a few examples from right here in this local community that tie back to the dairy industry and your work with our dairy farmers in the area. Do you have a couple stories that you can share of what that looks like?
Pegels family business, Pegels Ponderosa, always puts on an egg boot camp. They bring in young youth from local schools, and what we do is we design the front of it. There's sponsors on the back of it. But what's so neat about that is that brand is brought together, and it brings that unity of all of those kids together in one. They're learning about the egg business. It's such a great program, but it's the brand that is bringing them all together in when they're in the photos or if they're walking down the street. It's like a walking billboard. Even farm technology days, we were involved in that. The Eberts had it. I think it's 5 years ago now. I volunteered for that. It's a really fun event in the dairy industry. We put together all of the Bragg merch, which would be the retail aspect of it. We had our traditional baseball caps and beanies, but it was really the t-shirt design that was neat because it was a retail aspect that individuals could take away from their experience. Everybody gets an experience at Disney, right? But they should also have farm technology days. They were able to take home a shirt with them that would add to the memories. And even like your breakfast on the farms, we do a lot of cohesive, that family picture that's going to be in the local paper or all the social medias. You have all the way from the little grandbabies up to grandma and grandpa, right? Whether it's a fun little playful design supporting the brand on the little toddlers, all the way up to the women could have a fashionable trending item and men inside polo shirts, whatever it might be. It's so neat to see those pictures. We're proud to be part of making sure that that just looks like a unified team, unified family, and a very valuable business.
Yeah, there's nothing like a breakfast on the farm here in Wisconsin or some sort of farm family picnic where you have all the family getting together. That is a really good reason to get updated apparel for everyone and get a family picture taken. You referenced the boot camp at Pegels Ponderosa. I actually got to speak to that group of students. They were 7th and 8th graders.
Yes.
And it was pretty cool. It was a week-long thing that they do at that dairy and invite these kids from the local community. And it was something that, it was a vision John Pagel had started to say, how can we engage this next workforce to want to come be a part of the economic driver in this county, and that's agriculture, as opposed to heading 45 minutes across the county border to Green Bay or another city where they could get a job doing something that was non-ag. And how cool it was to get to be in the room and get to speak to these youth and see what Kylie and the others at Pagels have put together for this week-long program. And I have one of the Pagels boot camp shirts, and it's great. It's its own brand within Pagel family businesses, the boot camp. When you look at reaching the community and creating that next future employee, that was a really meaningful effort they've put forth. And you've been a part of that too.
Yes. Yep. Very neat program.
So we've talked about identifying core values as step one for turning your farm and business into a brand. We've talked about creating that unique logo, supporting the brand by wearing it, displaying it consistently as a family, as a team. And the other thing that we want to touch on here too, step number 4, is about really identifying who your audience is. Why is this important? And what do some of those audiences look like for a lot of the farms that you work with?
It's not only your audiences, and we'll get into that, but it actually is, like you say, peel back the layers. It depends on who your audience is as to we're in the process of picking out the product or maybe the imprint. So it's who are we speaking to? You're taking your logo, your brand, and you're speaking to these individuals. Who is that audience? It could be employee retention, that they're going to be so proud to be wearing it, like we said, or it could be a consumer. Recently, we did some work for Amy at Anchored Roots. And I look at Anchored Roots, it's a winery, yes, but they are also farmers. They are cultivating, they are planting, they are harvesting right now. They actually just picked up another order. I talked to Amy and I said, who is your audience? And this is part of the interview process and the questions that we ask our clients. She said, we are actually looking for selling this to the final consumer. What we do then is we take what her logo and brand is, and what we did is we did the spine print on the back of her tank tops. If she had the cap, we did the corkscrew patch that was on the front of their caps. So then we did like a left chest on her hoodies, and then maybe Door County down the left side, Anchored Roots on the right-hand side. It all is about the placement of the imprint, what kind of imprint you're using, and it all speaks to what the audience is. So a consumer, you actually could have your customer is along with the business employees and showing that pride. So it's just To determine that is going to make a difference as to what your approach is going to be with the product and the imprint itself. That's why it is very important.
Yeah, it speaks for itself. So when we look at the farming community that you serve, oftentimes there can be these different audiences, and our farms are no different. We have the examples from Eberts surrounding us here in the shop today. What you'll see is there is the farm brand that communicates to the community and also communicates to the current team and future employees at the farm. But there's also the restaurant side. They have a farm to table restaurant.
Yeah.
Similar branding elements between the two, similar fonts, similar colors, but different imagery that's brought in, connects with different audiences and aspects of those business segments, right?
Correct. Yes. And then they acquired Solomon Meats also. But
yeah.
You'll see that they have a red, black, white, and it's a very consistent with their Ebert grows. So therefore, that's the mother company. They're all under, but that's what they chose for their colors for the homestead. What we do for them is with the windmill. It's funny because they actually are still bringing in a small little aspect that is inside their original logo into each part of what they're doing. So they are very creative on how they put that brand together, and yet it's all cohesively tucked underneath that one mother company. So yes, the colors make a difference. They're working with fonts that are very similar. They're keeping the tradition of Solomon Meats with the cursive lettering, just taking that business and their customers and going on to the next level, but yet respecting what the tradition was there before they were there. Mm-hmm. So it's neat.
And I think that speaks to a lot of farms where we are so rooted in our traditions and our legacies, but yet looking at how can we position ourselves for the future. And that's a great example of how Eberts have done it, from the farm gear that includes that round barn, which is a reflection of what's built around the rotary parlor there, right. But also the windmill that's a staple piece of the restaurant, the direct, the farm to table restaurant, right. The homestead kitchen and tap. In this case, like many other evolving and growing dairy businesses, they acquired a business that someone else, a different family business in the area.
Right.
So they preserved some of that heritage by keeping their branding, but working it in and dovetailing it into an overall arching brand with Ebert Grows. I hope those that are interested in how they can integrate these elements of their businesses and pull them together to create a cohesive brand image and a cohesive reputation for what people see when they associate. I hope that this all is speaking to them and providing a pathway to do that. Knowing that audience is a huge step. And I've asked you to share 5 steps. Step number 5 you identified, Sue, is about being proud and telling your story. What does that look like?
Being proud, telling your story, having fun with it. Your brand now is going to reflect who you are. Someone is going to come and they're going to see an impression of what is Peggy all about? What are the Eberts all about? Whatever the next farm might be. So make sure that you are portraying it. When they see the impression they are getting from the sign, if they see it, are they having that feeling? Because it really is an emotional connection that you are with the brand. So this is the time to have fun, reflect, and just with anything that you do, make sure that you are making it 100% backing the brand itself.
So we talked about these 5 steps. One thing I really want to emphasize here that I have observed and seen on dairies that I speak with is just how important it is for employees and team members to feel like they are a part of something bigger than themselves, and not to underestimate the value of giving away a hat or some branded farm gear to an employee, what that might mean to that individual. To tell a couple of stories from the dairy side, I was visiting with a dairyman not too long ago, and he shared a story about being able to visit a village in Mexico where some of their people on their farm had come from, and going into one of their homes. I remember him saying that when he walked into their home, they had a beautiful display set up in the house. And as he got closer, what he realized is that display in their home in Mexico was set up around a certificate that he had received when working on the dairy. That really stuck with me, because when you think about engaging employees and creating meaningful relationships with the people we work with. And we have to, because it's not going to get easier to find good people to work in our businesses. And that effort of him receiving this certificate, I'm going to call that part of the branding for that specific farm. That was something that has a prime place in this family's home in Mexico, and it's something they're so proud of. I think about that too with our employees when they're on farms, whether they are people that have come from other countries or half mile down the road, it doesn't matter. They could come from anywhere, but oftentimes when they're looking for a place where they can plug in and not just be an employee, but look at their long-term future, they're looking at, how can I be a part of something that is bigger than myself? There truly is a value in giving someone a piece of material that has that brand and that imagery on it, makes you feel like you're part of something bigger. That's what I see in the next generation of employees, no matter what position they are in the dairy, whether it's an entry-level position or a bookkeeper in the office. People are looking for places where they find meaningful work and feel like they're a part of something bigger.
And the brand is definitely bringing them to that next level. We just had an individual that came in and they were giving their employees so many t-shirts, so many hoodies, and just to go into even the HighVisz, they really are worried about the visibility for their staff and making sure you're talking about safety. That is a huge area. We are seeing an uptick in our industry. It comes down to those employees feeling valued because the brand itself shows value. It's that perception and the impression that you're leaving on your communities, whether it's an audience or a community itself. For businesses and for the egg business here, the community can be your customers, or it can also be like your actual employees when it ends up reflecting who they are and the true meaning behind what they're all about and how they're perceived and the impressions that they're leaving on the community that they have. That's where I feel like the young leaders are wanting to feel belonging and being part of the big picture. Anyone can do certain things, but are you part of this big picture? Putting the branding piece in with it makes everyone unified.
Yeah, it gives people something to want to be a part of.
Right.
And I think that's part of the power of what branding is. When we talk about branding, it starts with the values, having a logo that reflects that, and then it's the ways that we utilize it. And you touched on something that is a big deal in the dairy industry, HighVisz. You've seen a big increase in farms looking for that HighVisz, that bright yellow, reflective. Mm-hmm. How have you been able to respond to meet those needs?
We have so many different aspects and products that we can be working with, all the way from a t-shirt. A lot of people actually do like long sleeved versions. It's a little bit more visibility again. And there's also products out there that are a little bit more comfortable now. So we have done for the Eberts, of course, they had their HighVisz jackets, but we also have even beanies or regular baseball caps that have the HighVisz along with it too. All you need to be able to see is just that one piece that's going to protect that employee. From jackets to even like long sleeve moisture wicking, they have them with hoods. You can pull it up so it has a little bit of a UV protection. Also, they have separated reflective on the shirts as well. It makes it a lot more comfortable.
We've covered steps of creating a brand and how farms can take what they've been doing and put it into a brand that professionalizes them and positions their image within the community and to the audiences they want to reach, whether it is their next employee, their current team that they want to keep on the farm, someone that is purchasing, maybe it's a direct product that's coming from their farm, but also their own neighbors and families. And that's a big deal too. I appreciate the time you have shared with us talking about branding, something that I'm very passionate about and see such an opportunity for farms to take this step by really relying on somebody else to help them with it so that they don't have to figure it all out themselves. But that can really make a difference and make people feel pride when they come to work. And again, whether it is your own family feeling good about when they come to work and a cohesive approach in what they're doing, or your team members that they know that they're part of something bigger than themselves, that is why they want to stick around and why they want to be a part of the long term, and what dairy farm doesn't want good long-term employees on their team. It's been a pleasure to sit down with you today and to talk about branding and the way that you've been able to help farms right in this area, and the capacity for you to help others too, in being able to identify who they are, what they stand for, and to wear that proudly themselves and to share that with the people on their teams. And appreciate you sharing your insights and 35 years of expertise on this topic. And that's why I came to you, Sue, with wanting to bring this to our audience for how to up level their dairy farm to be not just a farm, but truly a business and a brand. You work with farms right here in Northeast Wisconsin, but that's not the limit. You're also working with businesses and farms across the country. One of the ways you do that is they can order things through you, but you're also able to help farms set up their own online stores. Absolutely. Where their employees can order their own items, right? What a cool service.
And it starts with us, again, asking questions. We'll put together the online store. It gets approved. We ship throughout the entire United States. We have clients all over. California, Florida, it doesn't make a difference where it is. We take it from the beginning to the end, start to finish, and from the logo designing all the way to the online stores, and it ends up on your doorstep in 2 or 3 weeks.
Excellent. And that provides a pathway for some of our listeners, if they have this thing that they want to do for themselves, for their business, for their teams and their families. And that's an easy pathway to be able to have a meaningful brand that makes them feel like a business and that they can pass on to their team and have a presence in the community. Thank you so much, Sue, for sharing your expertise and what you do here at Quali-T, which is located in Luxembourg, Wisconsin, but as you said, serves a wide variety and range of businesses, including farms here in Wisconsin and beyond. And I'll make sure that we have a link in our show notes so that anyone who might want to check out a little bit more about what you do can take a peek there. And so thanks for joining me on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.